Hello, everyone, and welcome to IYX Radio. I'm over here with my wonderful co-host Sharika now, and our interviewee Q7 Beckett. Sharik, would you like to say hi to us?
Hi everyone, thanks so much, Robin. Really appreciate this. Q, we can't wait to hear from you and all about your experience in Namibia in the past 2 months. That was from January until March, right? Okay.
Thank you for having me, Rose. How can I say? It's another day and it's quiet. My dogs are outside.
That's good. Okay, so we would like to give a quick disclaimer that the views expressed in this interview are solely those of the interviewee, which is Mr. Q7 Beckett, a humanitarian, and these views are based on his personal experience and personal perspective. They do not necessarily reflect the views of IYX Africa, IYX Radio, or any of our partners. Yes, so let's just jump into the questions because we're so excited to hear from you and this Namibian expedition that you went on. So can you tell us first what inspired you to assist Gobabis Namibia?
Well, I can honestly say what inspired that was the fact that it is one community that houses all the native languages, all the native cultures, and a strong presence of San people. And I have friends there. I enjoy working with them. So this was us coming together and, attempting to develop something there.
Okay, that's awesome. And what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced during your time in Namibia?
I think Robin's getting stuck, or you're all getting stuck.
You are stuck.
Yes, you are stuck. I think we'll just give it a second and then hopefully. Do you think maybe you should join with his phone?
Yeah, maybe with your phone, Q.
Oh, there
What happened?
You're back now. That's the most important part.
Okay, right. Please, I didn't hear nothing.
Okay. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced during your time in Namibia?
During my time in Namibia, one of my biggest challenges was diet related. How can I say? When I say diet related, it meant there was nothing that I could deem healthy to buy from anywhere from 20 meters from the house where I was living to maybe about 20 kilometers. And that affected me badly. And it didn't affect my stomach, my hunger. It affected the plans that would have worked there, the way I see food, the way I see what a person should eat and how that person should eat it, It's very important. So food became immediately one of the hardest things that I would have been challenging at that time. Just entering Namibia through the time as one of the biggest things. If you look at the basic diet, for example, we are much more fortunate. We have a variety. We have vegetables. We have rice. We have pop, even though pop is not good. Rice, we don't know what is parboiled. We don't know what we eating, but we use good rice. So we do have varieties and choices in food. We have dried fruit varieties. We have fresh fruit varieties. We have nuts in a very large variety. These are parts of your diet. As a poor person, I can say that, that would be affordable. This is not counting meat. Now, what I've experienced there is that food is very expensive when it comes to you buying food. You understand? And we with a different diet, we get to pick. You need to do shopping. That's when you find out that, the cost of living with food's concerned has to be fixed. There's something wrong with. And when you look at what the household was eating, I mean, I lived in a chief's yard, Chief uh, Jacob Dabe, the Naro chief, and living in that man's yard, that respected person's yard, um, you 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 learn quickly that the foraging diet is still alive because what you see in his yard, you can think for yourself. There is other people doing it. There was leaf picking and eating. There was berry eating. There was cucumber eating, whether raw or fried on coals. There was the indigenous foods that you would eat if you're hungry or to suppress your hunger. And then there would be on the side maize meal and flour and what you call this thing macaroni. You know, these three things are, and eating them in large volumes, they're very unhealthy. And that's when I had to, after a week of just seeing that, what is the basic diet, I started quantifying one of the largest dangers there. What is the financial danger in that would keep them that hungry? I started going to the shops, looking at the prices, Spar, ShopRite. I'm talking big wholesalers. And then you see that these foods come from a very far. They're not coming from Namibia. This foods, you could say, baked beans is paying the diesel, pop is paying wages. Yeah, I understand. So it's about location, where the San people is. Veni to Cologne is 2 hours away from Gobabis. You understand? So healthy food comes at the price that it is prescribed due to its movement.
Yeah.
Which makes it very expensive. Yeah, I understand. So I had choices when buying. I come from a ghetto. I'm from Vivi. I know what it is to eat a burnt pot. Yeah, I understand. So I had to become that person again. I had to tell myself and convince myself time to, tie up the belt.
Oh.
You need to see the whole picture. And to prolong that, that's your first week just thinking that I'm in pain. I don't have a special diet, but I do eat fresh fruits and vegetables. You understand? And I take my meat in by eating intestines, livers, hearts, biltong, things like that. You understand? I don't eat conventional cow. Here you find cow all over the place, sheep all over the place, but not at the price you can afford. You
Sure.
understand? Then there's butchers in the ghetto where you can go buy meat, but when you look at the hygiene state, you know what you're doing. As a healer, I was caught working out more worms in people. The information that I found was more worm related. I understand. So I was deworming most of the people due to their diet, primarily eating pop and food that's not hygienic. Not that it's not good to eat, it's a piece of kudu I want. But what process did it go through? It was just cut up in pieces and chopped up and thrown into a bag and you sell it to me for 15 rand a bag.
Sure.
I understand. So it became that major problem. Nothing challenges that.
Sure. So food was definitely a huge challenge for you. And what would you say are some of the key lessons that you've learned from your experience in Gobabis, Namibia?
Well, I can tell you, I learned two things where I thought I would learn one thing. My first idea and vision I had coming there as a person who likes to learn about other people was that I'm going to learn these people's way of dreaming. You understand? I want to understand, how do they dream? How do they, what language do they talk in their dreams? I had other questions involved. Yes, I'm in remote systems and I need to go and figure out more on the food security. But I needed to see something, and the answers to that violently shut me. When you get there and the first nightfall that you come to and you realize no one in that yard speaks their language, that changes the whole question. Like, I'm in a chief's yard, I'm in Samstan, it's supposed to be a Sam community. I don't see Sam people there. Some people I see living in shacks and stuff. You understand? So, number one, my questions changed back to food security. And in that time, giving me time to really go back into the family and not the entire community and look at the family, because, I mean, you won't believe me. As a man that can handle himself, there were many nights where I wanted to do my normal walk like I would do in Wilbury or that's dangerous. You understand? But here, I was stopped by an entire family, like, yo, what you think you're doing? I'm like, but you can't be serious. And they're like, yeah, it's like that. There my questions change further. So every day, morning, afternoon, night, what the questions I formed an hour earlier disappeared 50 minutes later. It was a place where I had to learn constantly and violently. It was everything and every reality. No one was hiding anything.
You were a bit unclear there, just at the end. Is the volume is just a bit down? Are you maybe able to speak a bit up? I heard most of what you said. It was just towards the end.
No, I'm just saying that there's a lot of truths, but no one's hiding.
Yeah.
That's when you stand back and look at it. I come from a community. If a child gets hurt on the block, we all question it. We all, whether it is gossip, whether it's in the kitchen, whether it's on the corner, we're all questioning it. Was it sanctioned properly? Why? Who did it? Is it fair? Who's gonna pay? And here all I hear is complaints. No solution.
No solutions.
No solution. It was a game played in circles. Fear was a big factor. Fear was a big factor. Don't know if I sent you all the videos where I was mad one afternoon and I spoke about how people are scared, how they trapped in simple things,
Scared
what you find in your of simple things, I mean, when we were doing the interview with Dabe, which was cultural, we even got phone calls from community members asking, "Aren't you afraid of this?"
Yes.
They understand. And you are caught up in that frustration of, this is 2023, not 1903. Then a different personality steps up, you understand? And you have to keep that personality down because historically that repeats shit. You understand? So there's a lot of what I heard and saw that I have to stomach.
Yes.
I have to stomach.
Yeah. And so this whole experience, it's definitely challenged you in a lot of ways, and I'm sure it has changed a few of your perspectives. How would you say this experience changed your perspective on humanitarian work and global issues, not just in Southern Africa?
Well, that's something interesting to talk about, While I was on the road, you understand, I needed to view a lot. This is not myself. This is me saying honestly, Q, the entire journey, no matter how you see it, is supposed to be solution based. Something that is happening all around the world, all African countries, grassroots level organizations are trying to stand up for their communities and also trying to minimize funding, trying to be more self-sustainable. So this particular trip was to get that solution. But then, you know, when you get there and everything is displayed, you understand, you know what you are dealing with. You know what situation you are in, and you know that to tell these people, for particularly I was with the Naro, but within the community was Jwansi, was Nama, Dharma, was Tswana. You understand? There was Zulu people as well. There was all type of people in that community. So, you know, you're looking at the solution-based thing that you are looking at, and you're seeing that there's a problem because there's money. You'll understand that. You see that there is money. You can see the infrastructure. You can see somebody spent and budgeted and researched, and there's things around, but you see mismanagement. You see mismanagement, and you know, I looked at one project building, and I didn't look at the mismanagement of the building. I stood back to see a full view of where the building is standing. I love architecture. I'm a different kind of bushman. These things are like it's not normal. Architecture is one of them. And I always say, if you see a good building, you appreciate other good buildings around. You didn't see those buildings. So step back to make sure you appreciated the right area. You know, it's about the buildings around it, not just that one you saw. It complements the entire design. And when I stood back and looked at that building, I saw a big loss. I saw a beautiful neighborhood, something that could not make another person look at me marginalized while I do look for help. Because that plays a big factor. I saw an amazing neighborhood. I saw an education system trying and failing going on, but at least they had a hostel full of people there. Young San, Tswana, Nama, Herero, all type of beautiful kids. I've been watching them for the past 2 months, up and down, hostel life, living very hard. Living very, very hard. It's not easy. There's no food. You understand? Like I say, food is a very big problem. So looking at this view of this place, I saw the houses. If we are from Johannesburg, you would be more familiar if I say the houses look like houses in Woodford, Osmond. You understand? They have nice broad, big roofs, big yards, lacquer walls, the same type of design, you know, is what I saw there. You understand? So you're looking at the loss of a San organization due to mismanagement in an area like that. With an open field as big as 3 soccer fields and the grass is as long, taller than me. You don't know my height. And there's nothing to represent any honor for these San clans and their families, the chiefs. I can't question them. Now they needed the money. I could see why. The cost of living. It will make you corrupt. It will make you out your own. It will make you lie about your own. This is hunger. This is hunger. And at that same point in hunger, looking at that view, you have to step further back to see now not just that walls and that school. Look at Gobabis. There's only one factor. The hunger keeps the hungry fed, and the weak, they just make it. I had my old white man that says, yeah, the people lower than the middle class is there to scare the shit out of them. That's poverty. There you see it openly. So, you know, when you look at that area and that place and its people, and you look at the global village, this world we live in, you need to blame somebody in something. And as you can blame mismanagement on an organization that is grassroots level, never had $30 million in their hands, no 100,000 rand in their hands, they get that money. And these people got no training in anything financial, and no administrative skills, and no way of doing project planning or budgeting for a project, not understanding how to do meetings, not understanding basic company documents, why you should have it and why it is called the constitution. Now, if you didn't investigate these things from these people, why did you give them money? Because where mismanagement comes in is not those people, you see. What I found was it was the people that you had to now associate and attach to that money. People that could speak English much better than you. People that could read English better than you, read Afrikaans, speak Afrikaans, because they feel intimidated sitting in front of a board of people and not being able to answer frustrated in that matter. Now you place an agent in between you and your money, your community. Most of the mismanagement I saw come in that way. I can't say that these chiefs I saw. I met a lot of them, very honorable men. But I could see what hunger does. I've seen hunger in Africa. You don't blame the person, you blame the external party. The one that does good without looking at. You understand? We need the money, we need the funding. But if we don't have a form of auditing and policing what our money is doing when we give it to somebody else, then we have a problem. Because I've seen people, I can honestly say, that way I don't understand how can I achieve that for. Or some of them got government jobs that is amazing. Then you look at the favoritism in this.
Yes, we are gonna
You
get
find
we're gonna talk more
find,
on the mismanagement, and then we'll get to the favoritism as well. But now that we gave the audience a bit of what else we're gonna get into, I think, Sherry, would you like to talk a bit more about the livelihood and of the son, what Q found there on his humanitarian expedition? But we're definitely going to talk more about the favoritism and the mismanagement because it's a huge issue that we need to get into.
Definitely, definitely. Thanks, Robin. Yeah, Q, yo, it sounds like a really hectic situation over there. And you talk about the desperation. How do the Naro actually procure food, water, and other basic necessities um, from your experience?
well, you know, after maybe about 2 weeks, you start learning survival skills. Who does what?
Mm.
You have wood collectors. They make some money out of wood. Then you have berry collectors. They make some money out of berries. And foragers, practically, foraging food collectors. They walk around and sell these things, which means there is a good understanding of the cultural movement. Yeah, I understand there is an economy movement, even though how small or how micro, there is actually money exchange for goods. There is actually a bartering system still actually, but unfortunately on very lower levels than what you think.
Right.
How can I say? Did you rephrase that again?
Yeah,
Say
so
that
we just
again,
want to
your
know
question.
how do they procure food, water, and basic necessities? So, yeah, how do they get their food and
Yeah,
their water?
yeah, and then you find with what they do with this money. That's
Mm,
when things got interesting because you look at most people and you're like, okay, cool, I'm here 3 weeks already. I know what you're gonna do with the money. Now everybody know me. I can't be judgmental. You understand? I let things flow. I watch things. And what I watch them do is a lot of these people, those who live where there's electricity, they buy lights and they have to buy water. So a lot of the basic thing is they won't buy lights, but they will at least buy water. You understand? And those who don't have electricity, they live in the shacks. So they buy the foraging food instead of going to forage. So there's a lot of money made spent for good reason. And these people are very, very poor. You understand? Very, very poor. But they do have that order where before you go drink or do your drugs and stuff, there's something for somebody else around. And that to me was amazing. You understand that even though at that level that they were so considered, their people that least have to be eat, the children, they're very concerned about each other. That's one thing I can say. Within the alcoholism.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. I mean, what would you say the most popular or the biggest, sorry, who was that? I'm not sure. Sorry, my brain. So what is the most popular form of work there or employment? How are the people employed? What is the employment rate? How do they get the money? Or is it mostly from grants? Those types of things.
Well, where employment is concerned, I was kind of shocked. I mean, um, a lot of the guys that know me, I know them for a while. These are cattle farmers, herders, grazers, people who check up on cattle. Gobabis and the Omaheke region is predominantly cattle and safari lodges and stuff like that. So you're either in a safari lodge, in the tourism sector, or in the beef sector. You understand? And day by day, as sitting there, listening to complaints coming to Chief Dabe about employment conditions, and you know, you start listening to, and at first, you need to be investigated. You listen to a person's complaint, you look at his body language, you look at his fashion statement, it speaks as well. No matter what he's wearing, you need to look at his focus, everything. And I'm like, yeah, these people are serious. These people are dead dog serious, and their complaints are ridiculous complaints. You should not treat a human being that way. Period. Some of these people were beaten up on occasion. Some of these people were not paid like a minimum of 500 rand that is owed for 2-3 months. Some of them are given loans and they can't afford to pay these things. There was one occasion where a man saw a car and he phoned in and he asked about this car. And the man who owns the car was on his way to Gobabis from Witwatersrand. So man said to him, okay, I'm on my way to Gobabis. Please, you go check the car in Witwatersrand while I come to Gobabis and I check the cow because he said he was giving him a cow for the car. The only cow the man had, and the cow would have been a taxi and like money. So he gets to Witwatersrand and this farmer doesn't say shit, pulls her up in Gobabis by the man's house, slaughters the cow, cuts the thing into pieces, and it's ready for sale and starts selling it. And this guy's not what this man wants. So we had to take it. Some of them had complaints where you get kicked off from the land because your cow is doing better than the farmer's cow. Some people had complaints that they haven't been given their food stipend for a while. Some of them are sitting on farms, the owner doesn't know where the fuck he is. When he comes back, he blames them for theft, for things, and people get fired all of a sudden. Now, when you're looking at employment, where I'm going to with this, is that if you're looking at farm communities living amongst other communities, especially people in pastoral business, herding, cattle, livestock, you need to also understand that there is not an arbitrator or a labor consultant that works with the son on their behalf. You understand? Yet I saw unions up and stuff like that, but I can't really say that I've seen that. You understand? And that in employment, And the development of these people's skills there's nothing. They are kept at one level, and if you get too smart, you get released. Somebody else gets replaced. So it is a range of employment drama that I've seen.
Wow, that's really, really complex, yeah, no. Okay, so more about the Naro clan. How has the clan's standard of living changed over time, and what are some of the reasons for these changes?
Well, I can say I've traveled the region well enough, and I was in close company with Chief Dabe, his brothers, his sons, his wife, his children, his daughters, and you start understanding more of the Naro story. And you know, they are people that doesn't have much. When I say people that doesn't have much, for instance, up north when I was in Sumkwe, the Joansi can hunt. They live feral in the bush constantly, but the Naro don't have such an opportunity where they can practice their culture, where they can be free. When it comes to speaking their language, many of the Naro don't speak their language. They speak either Nama Dharma because it's the like English, understand actually like it's our Afrikaans. Nama is like the English.
Second language,
And
first language, yeah.
yeah, so due to the language as well, the Naro not speaking its language, a lot of the culture vanishes because the language means partake in cultural things that you understand. And I've seen Naro dances in Botswana, but I haven't seen in Namibia. And the dances I see in Namibia and the cultural people I see in Namibia, you could group around from the age of, say, 35 and up. The younger ones are just small dance groups that's actually just doing a dance and not actually, articulating the culture and understanding what is happening.
Right, right. So it's a loss of, like you're saying, language and identity in that way, but then also you said the Juansi are able to hunt. Is that because they have access to land, their ancestral
That's up
land?
north.
That type of
Gobabis
thing.
is Kalahari. Tsumko is
Mm.
up in the north. And I spent few days with Kamashe and, just, go and foraging with him, attempting hunting, looking at changes in nature, us just having basic conversation.
Right.
And, it was amazing that he could walk out of his house, out of his yard, straight into the bush, into that huntsman mode. You understand?
Mm.
Sadly,
Mm.
cows all over the place, so it makes it much
Mm.
difficult. But he still lives that Johansi Bushman way of life. Yes, and that to me was amazing that I could see that. But then when you come down south to the Kalahari side, and you know, it don't have that. You understand?
Mm.
Even the pool, they all mixed in the corridors. They all mixed in Blauberg. Blauberg is at least one on the entrance, where you find a colony of a chief's family, and they're living there and they're living there peacefully, even though they're in hunger. But Blauberg is amazing. It's a lot of land, and also there it needs the language needs money. Yeah, understand. The distance between Gobabis and Blauberg is far. Then Chaka, all these people are living amongst other people, and they're gradually becoming somebody else out of being Naro.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean there was
Oh.
instances where I saw, due to Chief Dabe not being recognized by the government as a chief, there's times where I saw the Naro had to sign like letters that actually states the person is Tung and not Naro. You understand? To gain access maybe to funds for
Digital
school.
language. Mm.
Exactly. And then when you look at the court cases and where you need the translation happening, you don't even find these people any of the others other than Dharma or Afrikaans is been spoken or Herero. Yeah, I understand. So if you're looking at your language becoming the third language that you speak, that's pushed out a lot of your culture, who you are, your identity, your world's view changes. Do you understand? You have to now borrow somebody else's world's view. You're not that person. You understand? In South Africa, we have rights against things like that. You understand? But we're talking about another country.
But I mean, yeah, as urban indigenous people, that's exactly what has happened to us, and that's why we are on this.
I mean, the people love each other there. I saw the
Yeah.
Tswana living with the San and the Nama, the Dharma. Their basic problem is alcohol and drugs. You understand? But when you see them share the language, how Nama Dharma became the common language to speak and to bring people together, because there had to be some form of, like saying, I need help.
A unity,
So
yeah.
you have this language, you have this language that makes them all common in their food security, their education, you understand? But when you look at the San clans, you need to uniquely also revive their languages and revive their cultures, because it's now bullied by the mainstream languages that's coming in. You understand? And in the same area, you're looking at climate refugees entering. People from the north, the floods are hectic. There's hardly trees there. People burnt most of the trees out for coal. You understand? To make a living. And these people come down to places like Gobabis to prospect, you understand, try and make something out of their lives, selling goods on the streets, working for foreigners, working for cheap labor. Same thing we find in South Africa, you understand? And just there, these people are entering on a already injured environment, you understand? I can't say there's no human rights, there is human rights, but when it looks at the favoritism within it, you can see it's bias. Yeah, understand. So you need to look at how even me as I speak right now, I need to be careful of how I frame what I say. You understand? Because it is quiet places like this where the invisible hand comes in and creates an environment that it thinks is fit for people. And in that it comes by, the the playing with the minds of leaders. Yeah, I understand. And I've seen it, man, not only in Namibia, I've seen it in Botswana, South Africa, all over. We have that element of corruption. But then when you ask yourself, is it corruption? When you ask yourself, where does it lead to? That man never had that money before. And the person who gave it to him never had that type of money before to give away in the first place. And then you always find out it's, people who give money and they don't know where it's going and they don't care. It makes their company look good and they can get more. They're paying wages. They're running big computers. They're running branding campaigns. They're running conferences and workshops that cost the same amount of money to start a small scale farm in a community and hand it over to each chief. Yeah, I understand. This is the type of things that I started being confused about, because there is an influx of money, but the mismanagement in it and not understanding the value of money. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not saying this one's corrupt and that one's corrupt, but those type of situations are rare when you can say that. This is 2023.
It comes down to lack of education, a lack of education, a lack of skills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here there is these organizations giving the money to create these skills. You see, that's where I don't get it.
You see, okay, let's before we get into that, that's really a really complex argument, or conversation. So we're gonna wait on that one. I just want to focus on the Naro now. While you were there, you had an amazing experience with elephants and that type of thing. So what role do animals play in indigenous cultures and societies? So more from the spiritual side.
An amazing, how can I say, affair of life.
You're stuck there.
Ash. I'm sure he'll be back in a second.
Okay, we can see you now.
Okay, right here. So we were looking at animal-human conflict. And one of the amazing things that me and my friend found was that, you know, when we asked a Joansi person, a huntsman, you know, for example, would you eat an elephant? And then he looked at him and he's like, no, but that's not almost, but that's like a person, you know, that's a person. You can't do that, you know, and even further spiritually, do you know what it is? And then, you know, I looked at my friend and she looked stunned, and I was like, that's what I want to see. Did people ask the questions, and what did they do with the answers we gave them? Yeah, I understand. That is a very important thing to understand why the sun is where it is. When you become overstudied, this is what happens to you. When you become over-researched, over PhD and masters tooled, you understand, and shaped for that, to learn from the weak to strengthen the strong. You understand? And she saw it and I saw it. That bond of animal that Bushman folklore speaks of us losing, we didn't lose it, we dripping away from it. I've been looking at videos of animals in the parks and stuff like that. And I myself, I witnessed something amazing in the parks. We're now on the Nene. And, you know, to realize that I lived a life that close to nature where I'm bothered by sitting in a house. And when I'm there, I hear things, see things, react to things how a person should. You understand, where I call myself a bushman. You understand, I react like that person there. And when you go further into it, you realize the damage. You realize here's a man talking about an elephant like a human. And a few nights ago, I stayed in a place where people shoot elephants. It's a hunting, a trophy hunting place. Yeah, understand? So you again in 2023 caught up in that. Is this really happening?
Yeah.
You know, are we not gonna realize what's happening to the connection? Not these clans. You mustn't get me wrong. The San, some of the San has never seen a giraffe. Some of the San has never seen a lion. Many of them. Some of them has never seen an elephant in their life. Do you understand? There's this thing that fences does. You understand? It changes your environment. And if you think it's only your environment changed, no, it changed the entire biodiversity of where the fences are located, pushing out a greater biodiversity and social life away from each other. Do you understand? Now, these people love like that. And that is the reality that you pick up when you look at animals, insects, and these people. You know, it didn't take long in conversation where Kamashe was trying to explain something to this other guy, and it went into him having to explain a bird. Do you understand the actions and the habits and the reactions of a bird? For him to understand how he knows that there's something bad here or what should be done here. Do you understand? But he couldn't get it in, you know, I'm not articulate this like the man.
Yeah.
I know English. He used very nice English, but he used it in a way a child would speak to a person. Do you understand? So there's this connection animals have with the clans in storytelling, in rites of passage, in courtship. You understand? There's this reality that you can see that we have a large affair with animals and plants. And what we think we have is a very small glimpse in what we could have. Do you understand? By just seeing a San community, even those who've never seen an elephant, when they speak of one, they speak of one like they've seen it.
Yeah.
Then they
They've
tell the
integrated.
story of where they heard it from, exactly like where they heard it from. Do you understand? So it's not just seeing the elephant, it's remembering the elephant.
Yeah.
Do you understand? That's important. I don't see us doing that yet. We remember food security and we remember water is dirty and nah,
Yeah.
there's something else okay. Are we remembering that? You understand? And that's the pieces that you have to look after. You understand this relationship? Because what I've learned, I really never looked at animal-human conflict within the San, because I know we don't have a conflict with this. But then I saw what the modern day San person has to face due to overgrazing of cattle, loose grazing or free grazing of donkeys and horses. I mean, the donkey can run into your yard and kick the shit out of you right there. And it would have never happened 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
When there's still bush.
Domesticated, yeah.
I mean, one military veteran from 31 Battalion who was sitting and he came to Rutsumkwe Lodge for the night to drink. And he sees me and he laughs and, he remembers me from Joburg somewhere. And he's like, Q, remember my favorite joke? And I'm like, yeah, say it, your lighter. He's like, the first time I saw a bushman, I flicked my lighter and they all ran away. And he still thought it's funny since then, And whenever I see him, he tells that joke. The first time he saw a bushman, he flicked it and they thought he had fire in his hands and they ran because you're not allowed to play with fire like that.
Yeah, it's a sacred entity.
You understand? So look at all these things, how they look at giraffes as, I mean, a lot of people don't know a giraffe is like a god to these people. It's a giraffe, it's a sexy, tall animal. But the relationship that is still there within all this confusion, lack of food. No, there is still a large respect for animals and how they are associated with the San. The other people, however, are pastoral people. They don't really have that connection. They have it with a cow, a goat. Some clans will not eat; they'll starve, but the cows will be okay.
Yeah.
Even touch that cow, like what will happen to people in India. The cow is there, but he ain't gonna eat that cow. But now there's too many of them. I understand that's the problem.
Well, that's really interesting, Q. Like, thank you so much for that. Yeah, no, would you say, just to end off this round of questioning, would you say that from your personal experiences and, just your whole life here on Earth, that's one of the fundamental reasons why we're just so disconnected, is our lack of connection and understanding of nature, Would you say that that's one of the big things that's caused such a, rift in humanity?
I think the big thing in humanity that caused such a big rift is that small group of people with a lot of money knowing how to manipulate people. Because for every action there's a reaction. And if more of those people are in power of things like seeds, your policies to your freedom and rights due process, the more of us in the community that's in charge of our own rights and how it is made and who implements it and why, things like this won't happen. We are living in a modern day and age where you can download a PDF of the rights, but most people will download a PDF on a diet program or what herbs are best. Even me as a healer is concerned that there is no more herbs due to people.
Thanks, Q. Thank you so much for that. Okay, I think we can progress on then. Thanks, Robin.
Is Robin there?
You muted. You muted, doll. You muted.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm so sorry. I just had a quick little technical difficulty, but we're all on track. Yes, so I want to speak a bit about in DigiWalk Namibia. This was a walking conference for climate awareness that we put
Yeah,
together. We usually have an annual in DigiWalk, just like we have an annual conference. And this in DigiWalk it was for climate awareness, to create awareness on the struggles that we have found in Namibia specifically, and you did mention a bit of climate refugees. And we found three distinct, we've seen the emergence of three distinct outcomes that the climate crisis has brought about, which is the climate refugees, which are people who have been forced to move because of the changing climate. And then you have
yeah,
climate hostages, or people who are trapped and they can't move because they
yeah,
don't have the resources to move to a more hospitable environment. And then we have the climate deaths, which is those who have died as a result of the climate crisis. And this includes people who died from extreme weather conditions, those who have succumbed to dehydration or malnutrition due to the lack of access to resources. And we all were really excited about this in DigiWalk, but unfortunately we did have to cancel. Um, Q, can you tell me why it was so important to be so transparent about canceling the in DigiWalk? Um, because there was a
well, first of all,
yes,
it was a matter of me getting hurt.
yes.
It started there. Um, a month prior to that, I had to defend myself against two people, one in South Africa, one in Namibia, who ranted out some claims that I'm in Namibia on behalf of some king and I'm lying. No, that wasn't true. These were men that were trying to block development in the Chief Naro's group. Why I selected the Chief Dabe from the Naro to work with him is because me and his daughter's been working together for almost a year already. And that was just me advising her on development that should be done and needed in our community. So that became something that brought a bit of violence in my stay there. And also one of the main reasons why I'm practically, thinking twice about returning there. And yet I have to, due to us having a project there. But things like in DigiWalk would have endangered people. I don't know what's the intentions of these people. I'm not just a leader in the field, but I'm a CEO of a company. And this company is created to help people. And me getting hurt is me injuring the company. I understand. So there's a lot of hurt involved. It's not just me physically getting hurt, but a volunteer getting hurt, a walker getting hurt. Somebody is dragged into name calling and stuff like that. So these things had to be looked at. And in the end, I have to say thank you to Spa Gobabis and thank you to Mega Save Gobabis, who really did donate and, gave an opportunity for a pop-up organization that just popped up. And I must say the trust and us having a conversation about our why was important, because it is in times of climate or some big disaster climate causes, we find people standing together. Gobabis is quite segregated, and this is not just on the white and black level, but segregated within the Bushman community, segregated within the color community. Whoever is there is on their own. Yeah, I understand. And the gay community is totally on their own as well. So it was a thing where we were all going to highlight that we care for Gobabis, and we need to have a better attitude towards climate and climate change within Gobabis. It's a very beautifully, it looks not polluted, but it actually is. People dig holes and put things in things. So it is a place that, I think the climate and this climate crisis could bring the youth together in Gobabis. And they might make better decisions because the old people and the people that was placed in trying to create things like this, they didn't really work out. So it's up to the youth today standing diversely together in Gobabis, and an action like that could have brought them together. To see each other differently can make you see each other's visions and dreams differently. There's not much that's not common in Gobabis, but I think one of the biggest common goals is everybody wants to be de-traumatized. And that trauma comes through what money did. You understand? And it's not only in places like that, it's found all over the world where a small community suffers the mistakes of people who said they could manage them. So yeah.
Yes, that Indigenous of Namibia was definitely going to be an event to hold space for the youth and, bring together youth of all cultures, all communities, to stand
Yeah.
together. But unfortunately, we did have to cancel. And before that, we did actually put out a video, of the three of us along with Chief Dabe and his family, and we spoke a bit about, we addressed the threats that were made, some of the threats that were made um, to our humanitarian efforts. Just for anyone who's looking for more insight, we did put that video out there so that there is more information over there.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what are um, what role do you believe humanitarian organizations should play in addressing climate change? Because you are a humanitarian and you also have a humanitarian organization. So, what role should we be playing? We do have 5 minutes left and then we will come back.
We have a big role to play. This is not normal. And we think we affected in the cities when it's actually the people in the rural areas that's affected first. And they're affected because of what we suck out of their lives into our realities. You understand? We need their things to survive. And they always learn to do one part of the job while we know the whole job, farming, the market, the selling, everything. We need to change that. And unfortunately, if you're just a humanitarian and you're not an environmentalist with that, you have a problem. You're not seeing what's creating your problem as a humanitarian. You need to see what's creating your problem as an environmentalist. Like that, you can see the origins of this trauma that you're going to go against. So organizations needs to be also, they need to re-look at the field work. If we all just gonna go on with how that one's project went out there and not us go out there as well to see if we can either, better the response or the reaction they tried, then we're never gonna know what's gonna really happen, because then organizations are only built to get the money and to do the workshop. What about the field work? Yeah, understand where your education is leading to, where your practice is leading to, where your ideology is leading to, where it must be fruitful. Yeah, understand. So we need a seminar or wherever out there to stand together and say, you know what? How do we, not measure success? Computers are doing that today. But how do we support the ground teams? How do we properly support? We properly support the ground teams by educating them on how to react in any scenario as a humanitarian. What is his laws? He can't get his embassy for 2 days on the phone. What does he do? He's being threatened. You understand? These are the parts of being an organization and a humanitarian that needs to be understood. Those people on the ground, in some countries, they're dying. In some countries, they're being hurt, they're being silenced for planting food or for saying no to a corporate company. Some of them got armies on them. This is still all the same situation. We get sent in there. We care. So we decide, okay, right, cool, we have an organization for that. We're going to get money to go there and do that. Half these people come back there as volunteers, but traumatized, and there's no way to send them because it will cost a lot of money. They volunteer to go do that. But they come out of that situation traumatized. I've taken white people, for example, into situations where they come out culture clashed, traumatized. Oh my God, look at this life. And yet we're chilling. They never come right. They understand, where does that person go to? That person volunteer to go help. They understand. So as organizations, is there somebody thinking out there, what happens to those teams on the ground that actually gets the funding? What dangers do they pose to the environment and the environment pose to them?
Mm.
Do they have the necessary skills? Do they know how to dial a certain number? Do you understand? These are the things that is lacking out there. And when you find the organizations who has these things in place, they're always locked up behind fences and they're nice, they're safe. Their projects don't have a common enemy. But when you look at the areas that is needing these organizations and knowing how to react, I mean, you can send 4 organizations, 4 different volunteers. That's from 4 different academic backgrounds, and they can teach them something, but they don't.
Okay, so we have one last question in the environmental aspect, and then we're gonna move on to the much awaited talk about uh, funding and favoritism. But before we do, Q, do you think that governments are doing enough to address climate change? And if not, what more can they do?
Governments are not doing enough. Particularly speaking on South Africa, for example, over the past 5, say 10 years, we've seen more plastic items spilling out in rivers and spilling out in oceans. And this plastic started being more, how can I say, accepted. And now that it's overwhelming and large, we see that it is brought in by companies from overseas who brings in plastics. We need stricter regulations with plastics, not just the community charged to pay for a plastic packet, but how much does companies get charged? What's the policy? What's wrong where they can bring in so much plastic goods into our country? I mean, half of these things don't last, toys don't last, and you know what they are and who they come from. So we need stricter policies on what could be traded in our country. That's number one. We need to keep people with those trading licenses and permits liable for the pollution that it might or will create, because it's plastic. It needs to get rid of somehow. I mean, I come from an area where I've seen housing made out of plastic packets in Namibia, and to have seen that is, it's distorting. You understand? That's how much pollution there is, that people are not afraid to go live rough because they can find plastic. That makes you think, how much of it have we been distributing through trade, through buying things, these new malls that's popping up everywhere, selling, products that in other countries are not allowed, but in South Africa we have these things made out of poison chemicals and a whole lot of other junk that you don't want to know. But if we could find government to start listening to environmentalist people in this area, and find government to create a room for the conversation on TV, for example, the way we are doing right now, where the public can comment on what they think about a simple thing like plastic, you understand, and what minimizing that could do for us as a country. And, government should allow youth to do this. It's not about grown people, it's about the younger generation. So I do think that yes, government can make better decisions in our pollution and how we face climate change.
Wow, okay. Thank you so much, Q, for that. I think now we'll progress to, like Robin says, the much awaited conversation on favoritism in funding, the lack of regulation of funds, and then the corruption. So can you tell us what is favoritism? What is this favoritism thing that you've been talking about, so people can get, greater understanding before we go into the rest of the questions?
Well, when you travel, and you travel as a tourist, you travel to safari lodges, you travel to national parks, you travel to places of interest, But if you call yourself a humanitarian, you travel to where there's conflict, you travel to where there's help needed, you travel to other organizations. And in this travel between these groups of people and these legal bodies, you start understanding the language, you start understanding what is the commitment of being there, remote assistance, you understand? What do you do by saying you help people there where no one can see or no one can be? Yeah, understand? It's not like a city where I can have a visit from you at any time to see what I'm doing. So, you start realizing that there's this influx of money coming in. And sometimes it's not money, not all the time it's money, but a large part of the time it's opportunity, you understand? And this opportunity comes in, it's things that I would admire myself. I see myself doing these things, you understand? A few weeks ago, opportunity came in to learn social media and management. You understand? These are things they need right now as youth in creating organizations, understanding what's intellectual property, how to protect it. You understand? These are important things. Now, when you see these things, you're kind of proud that you are seeing it. When you see the banners, you see the posters, you see the proud words on the wall. But when you note around you, there's something wrong. Then you note how many of these organizations are in an area. Then you know something deeper is wrong. And what makes that wrong evil is when you see who's being paid who, what. You understand? And that comes in forms of keeping sure that that person must get funding. So people will make sure that person get funding. You understand how? He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid. His chances are not for nothing. You understand? And in this, that sort of business in the end of the day creates favoritism. The organizations that's involved in this don't actually know what they're doing. Some of them are. For example, if we as IYX Africa get funding, we have a responsibility every time, every month practically. You, Shari, you go on to Zooms, and you need to give in your spreadsheets and discuss where am I, what am I doing, what are we trying to achieve, where are we getting closer to this vision of ours, are we still okay with it, are we still seeing? You do that. But due to the fact that most of these organizations out here don't have that skill, you see, don't have that office etiquette, that administration values on what an organization does, what are these titled persons supposed to do? You understand? So you find people getting money, but then you find that this people here that gets the money to do ABC only gets people from group A and fill in B and C, not getting a random selection of people and placing them into not power, but into a position to help somebody. Do you understand? So you find that in one, for example, one organization will fly you to Durban. You've come to Durban, that is 10 of y'all. 10 of y'all sleeping in a 3-star, 4-star accommodation place. It's expensive. That's for 4 days, 5 days, plus shuttle, plus your return flights to Namibia, plus your taxi fee and stipends to head you back home. You understand? So how much does each person make? Do you understand what's the true value of what each person that was transported to Durban? What was the deal there? Is there any transparency there? You understand? And the people going, why do they look like the same people who went for the other thing last month and for the other thing the month before that?
Right.
Do you understand? Then you start saying, and how you know this? So it's fucking easy. You go onto their Facebooks.
Yeah.
You go onto organizations' Facebooks. You browse through. I mean, I'm not saying we're not guilty of it. We also got that in because I mean, fucking everything. Yeah, understand? But you go to these organizations and you look at their profiles. Okay, cool, that's that organization. Then you look at what is this organization? They done this training. Let's see who did it. Then you look at that photo versus the photo before that, months ago. Then you go further, but you don't see the group of people really change. That's favoritism. That is what, I always looked at people saying, corruption, this corruption, that. Now there's something worse than corruption, it's favoritism. It gives birth, it lays the seed of corruption. You understand? And then you find that this select of people from group A that falls in group B and C, they never give the rest of the alphabet a chance. Why? That photos prove what is happening every quarter of the year when something, I mean, I looked at a few of these things and I was like, shit. I was training people in Gobabis in an office, things are from Allison.com, short courses. And what they learned there in business administrating versus those people who goes for these things, those people didn't know shit. Those people didn't know nothing. Now imagine if these people who I scouted and selected and said, nah, man, just knowing what conversation, I'm not there as a consultant, I'm not there as a shrink, you understand? But I had to make my stay comfortable. And it took me 2-3 days. You know me with youth. It doesn't take me long to find out what's your passion. It doesn't take me long to find out what is your creative side versus your capability to defend yourself. You understand? What do you know about where you stand? You know me. And I found in a very short space of time, a bookkeeper, a project manager. These were youth not looked at. Right in the yard, and yet they talking what we have and what we don't have.
Yeah, they want to do
what we have and what we don't have. They worried they don't have a future. Right in the yard. It's people who can't go back to school because they don't have money for food. They're laying right in the yard. Due to not having that, not due to not going to school. Yeah, they can do that. But not having the money kept them there. But because they were young, they're not allowed to lead. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Now, what started that? That started by somebody, the external figure, that brings in a sum of money and says it is to do A, B, and C. But that people, do they ever go and check on that A, B, and C? Do they ever go check on, was that really truthfully done? It's not about you trying to be the boss. It's not about you trying to say that, no, oh, you know what, I'm a white, I can't do that. It's going to feel so colonial. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to take responsibility for what that person's about to do to him and others with that money.
Yeah.
It's not good things that's only happening with that money. There's bad things happening after people touch money that don't understand. You know, I was looking at this YouTube video where this black man, and you know, when he said it, I actually sat back and I almost cried there when he's like, the thing about Africa is we are taught to mismanage, not to manage. What happens when we are taught to manage this thing?
I saw that.
Who's afraid of that? Somebody is afraid of teaching us how to manage ourselves.
Yeah.
Now, that's things that goes deep there. You understand? But in the end of the day, you know, we need to look at this. What is the problem? The problem is favoritism. A favoritism is born from your good intentions. Mr. I give you a lot of money. Mrs. I give you a lot of money. Mr. Pension, I'm taking a part of my pension and I'm blessing
Not
in
understanding
Africa.
the impact that is.
Do you know what is your money doing in Africa after you've sent it? IYX Africa, yeah, we blabber what we do. We're so proud. We haven't stagnant the people and shit like that. To a point where I know it doesn't matter to a lot of people, but you know, it matters to how I feel in the end of the day as a person saying I'm heading out my founding dream. I understand. I have these wonderful ladies who could have their own lives. But what do I do? How does IYX Africa affect their own lives? How does my decisions in the field affect Shari, affect Robin? How does me asking money from people affect these two people's lives? We could be blackmailed. We could be in getting money from, we don't know.
Yeah.
You understand? So if we are reacting that way because of what we have learned in South Africa prior to our political failures, our economical failures, we've learned even in our own homes about money, who to trust, why, how come, you're not being nasty. That person's a drug addict. Don't give that person money. That person is a drunk. You can't ask that person to do that particular thing. You know, we learned these things. But here you have a group of people that's only taught to beg, only taught to have their hands out because of the certain status they have in life, indigenous, origin, First Nations, First People. So people dealing with them should be more clued up on how to train them, how to be self-sustainable, how to do this for yourself so you don't need a middleman that's going to call you or make you look like you've just been corrupt. You just lost a lot of money. Because that's the fight you hear amongst the chiefs. Yeah, you stole the money. Yeah, you did this. And it's a big fight. But in actual fact, who's to blame? Is that good intentions, handing in money that has got no guidance, no rules to a group of people that's very fucking hungry.
Yeah.
And that hunger makes you stand out alone. I've seen this. You know, to sit next to Chief Dabe and he's like, watch this one here got money. But he's gonna still come into us for the problems he has that he doesn't want to spend money on. So he comes to us to sort out those problems, cheap or for free. You know, and I look at that shit and I'm like, what gave him that juice, that fuel in life to think he's powerful? Because a few years ago he was broke.
Yeah.
2 years ago he was broke. A decade ago they partially came out of the bush. They just came out of farms. Do you understand? But there's a man or a company or an organization outside that has got a whole world of good intentions, a whole world of good people, good hearts donating. I mean, I feel bad, Shari. I said to myself, I woke up the other night and I remembered that lady that puts money for pads every time, and she does it for a dead kid, on behalf of her dead kid. Now, that had me since the day I saw that post. The world can't see it, the public can't see it, but the fact that we read that, doesn't that give you a responsibility to do the thing that we do correctly? Because somebody's giving you money backed up with so much intention of a dead person to buy pads for a little girl. I think that money should be seen through. I think that person trusts that you're going to do that, isn't it? You're going to do that. But what would you do if I tell you that I don't trust nobody in Gobabis to send money to? Because it might not happen. The might is like 90%.
Yeah.
Because he sees his family's needs and his crew's needs and his circle's needs and the box and the square they're all in, that needs he sees much clearer than the entire needs of everybody. And you know what does that do? After the favoritism, when it comes to the end to see what does it actually fashion, what does it violently shape? Do you know what it violently shapes? It shapes children between 7 years old and 18 years old, giving birth to fetal alcohol syndrome babies. It gives off a situation where women with babies can't feed their babies because they drank a homemade beer that decreases your chance to make milk. You'll get a big breast, but you ain't got milk. Then you look at weekends at the bars. There's a bar or a shebeen every 3 blocks, like 3 roads full of it. Who's the occupants? Who's the person bringing in the influx of finance into that business? What is the age group of them? Is there anybody to stand there or regulate there? Any form of social policing? I'm not giving a damn about the government. I'm giving a damn about the organizations that set out to say they're looking at these particular crimes against humanity. You understand? These are the things that is very important. And I
Yes.
see that it's a global thing. It's not a local thing.
No,
You know,
for sure.
I'm just going to be one of those people who says that we need to see less of it. We need to see less of it. It's creating something horrible because the end product is the child that's born now. The 10 years from now, that child is facing is based on lack of management skills and lack of funding. How can I say, be respecting funding? You understand?
Yeah, yeah,
Because some of these people have got the skills to see out the money, but they don't respect it. You understand?
exactly.
So we
It's a
need
power.
environmental people, humanitarian people, all to start looking at how do we create a model of thinking that suits these people we work for. Is there somebody to work? They workshopped us on everything in the world, on plastic,
Yeah,
on pollution, on cutting down trees. When you're gonna start workshopping us in what do you do
trauma.
to better the situation of the person, teaching that person at vital organization board where it all starts, how to articulate their visions, how to control their money, how to set up projects. Because now we know food security, we know planting seeds, we know all that other things, but we're still fucking up. Why we fucking up is because of one solid thing. The money never goes to develop me, the person in the office. It goes to develop my environment and feed the cause. Food, food, food. But that
Yeah,
keeps me uneducated because all I'm learning to do is feed. I want to learn to do it on my own.
to grow. Yeah,
Yes. Stop giving money for food. Give me money for how do I develop? Because it doesn't look like these communities are going to come out of organization business. When I say organization business, trust me, in Gobabis and in many other places, what I see more actually, what I see more than a spaza shop is the amount of people with boards and things up that say they help people. The amount of organizations in a community surpasses even churches. Look at how much NPOs and
nothing
NGOs
being done.
and companies are created in communities. These things are large amounts, but nobody looks at where's that money going. Are they really doing that job? Are they really using that money for good? Yes, some of y'all need to have wages. There's not a problem. But where does
So,
the
so
rest of the money go?
you saying this, how can organizations, how can people be held responsible? Are you saying develop an organization or develop a group of people that are, you know, going to set these
No, we
things
can't.
in
We don't have time to develop people in that field. But what we do have time for is organizations to speak to them and ask their partners out there. Ask
Yeah,
their grassroots partners out there sincerely, what do you lack in administrative skills? Who is strong with what in your organization? Maybe
yeah,
your key player could be advanced. Instead of us giving 50,000 rand just for your project, let's cut out 10,000 rand for that person to go do some advanced workshops. We can't send them to varsity. We can't send them. We need them there on the floor.
yeah.
Hey, why can't we split our budget up and create budgets for these organizations, but mainly starting with how do I better the organization? Because this organization needs to create a reputation. This organization can't now be grassroots forever. It must come out and graduate out of that. You understand? You are marginalized until you graduate out of being marginalized. Why do we only come up to that height where we fall again down? It's because of the lack of knowledge. If we had the knowledge to take ourselves out of the graduation period of being marginalized, then we've done it. But now we just come out on top of it, and the vices we create drops us down. Due to what? Again, funding. Do you understand? There's where that thing again plays part. So
So
we need to look at how to bring people to attention to don't only give me money for my project, but give me money to better how I do what I do.
Foundational skills, right? Thank you,
Foundational skill.
Wow.
Robin.
Yes. Wow, what a powerful episode. Um, Thank you to everyone for tuning into this episode of IYX Radio. We hope you enjoyed the insightful conversation. And we would like to extend our gratitude to Q7 Beckett for sharing his expertise. And thank you to my lovely co-host for hosting this episode with me. Thank you,
Thank
Sharon.
you. Thank
And
you.
please remember to subscribe to IYX Radio to stay updated with our latest episodes. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram for more exciting content. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.